Hi! It's part 2 of daily number 527 where we're talking about phoenixes. Yeah! It makes me happy. I hope you're doing well on this fine Wednesday. Or if you're watching on YouTube, happy Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's Thursday on YouTube land right now. We're looking at the basics of considerations at the start of the phoenixing. And now we have this weird situation where both players know that the other player is going phoenix. Here's where things get a little tricky. So at a really basic level, why would a player like MC want to go phoenix? Because we can force him to make stalkers, we can get ahead in our robotics bay tech, not robotics facility, robotics bay. We can begin those Colossus earlier. We can keep him passive, yeah. But now if we're both going phoenix, we're both trying to do that. Who's going to be the active? Who's going to be the passive one? Well, holy loud volume. At a basic level, we can just try to start out phoenixing him right off the bat. This moment when I first saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's going to be a huge win for Grubby if he manages to take out the phoenix. Tip the balance in his favor. Holy crap. But here's the big issue. Phoenixes do not take long to build. 35 seconds. With a chrono boost, that's 25 seconds. Contrast this with an immortal. A phoenix takes 35 base seconds to build. An immortal takes 55 base seconds to build. I mean, you can burn your gas mega quickly with this. So the first thing that a lot of players will have the tendency to do is to say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop Phoenix production. I'm just going to halt. And I'm just going to go for stalkers. And then I'll expand. And then I can kind of plant my stalkers here. And I can go stalker Phoenix and bounce back and forth between the two bases. So consider that. Halting all production of air and then just going into stalkers. Well, the problem is that we are super screwed with the rest of our tech. We are behind in gateways. We don't even have any count of immortal units. We don't have a bay. We have no forge. We have no Twilight Council. We're behind. So the other guy who kept going phoenixes gains that map control edge again. Grubby's going to do kind of an intuitive move. It's very difficult to lift buildings, so he will expand. Yeah. Technically, I will note that the only non-gas heavy response to phoenixes is to build a forge. And that's actually a completely acceptable thing to do defensively. You can also construct the upgrades. However, you are going to end up with fewer gateways as a result, and you just can't attack. You will not be able to attack. So Grubby, interestingly, is starting to poke and prod his way around. Just try to make sure, okay, you're not going Phoenix, or you're not going for your expansion as well. You end up with these marginally silly micro battles, and this is a real danger for Grubby. Because even though Grubby is going for Phoenix, and his opponent's going for Phoenix, and even though that was just one, look back at Grubby's base. The only thing he has to defend himself, in addition to these other units, are the Phoenix. So, holy cow. If MC out-Phoenixes Grubby at this point, then that means Grubby will lose probably 8 to 15 probes just in the response lifting. So Grubby from expanding is really forced to do this. Same story is on Camp MC. Now you might ask the question, why not just build a second Stargate right now and start constructing a whole bunch of Phoenixes? Just try to outdo them in that regard. Well, the problem is we don't quite have the money to do that. We get 250 a minute, and we can spend, like, a little more than that, close to 300 a minute with Phoenixes, so we just don't really have the cash income to do that. So, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. We get about 250 per minute, but we can spend about 400 per minute if we have 2 Stargates in gas. So Grubby, you'll notice, is doing something that I find to be quite clever. Obviously, getting as much gas as he can, but he's doing as much with just minerals as he can. Expand. Build extra gateways. These aren't really going to be used, but it's about the best you can do, right? Getting a forge at this point wouldn't be bad. A single, lone forge. But now that we have 2 stargates, Grubby can just add on in a very economic way straight into more phoenixes. A very common mistake would be, why not throw down the extra air weapons upgrade? That's fine to do, but not too early, because 1 air weapons upgrade at this point is about as much as a stargate. So you want to wait until you are unable to build anything else. And likewise, Grubby is just building up some units, whatever he can afford with just his minerals. I will bring up the relevant tab. You will see that Grubby is actually behind MC in that Phoenix count. And it looks pretty stagnant. Both players will build an observer because it's pretty important to just have an eye on your opponent's tech. Observers become hilariously critical in this situation, because there's almost no way to actually check in on your opponent. What if MC checks in on Grubby and Grubby just has more phoenixes? I'm serious. It's actually that simple and dumb sounding, right? I can't check on him, but he has phoenixes, and I have phoenixes, but not enough phoenixes. It really hurts. It sucks, especially with distances this big. So you kind of just have to play passively for this brief period of time. So Grubby, I think smartly, is starting his +1 now that he can afford it. 100% of Chrono Boost goes into phoenixes because these 2 bases are mining gas at a rate of 500 per minute, or at least they should be. Alright, cool, I'm not... I do know things. So Grubby will do this accordingly. Yeah. So I think thus far nothing's been too extreme, so we're just going to speed it up. So this is the stalemate position that we're in. We also need to be very wary of losing extra probes. But Grubby starts to do a lot of stuff that makes me just go, ooh, that makes me all wiggly. Sending minerals to go control the watchtower. And then he's going to be constructing pylons all around the map. Here's the first instance of that. This is a very dangerous move for MC to do, because no one really knows. Now Grubby is doing this very slow, gentle tech up to the Phoenix range upgrade. Remember that upgrade that everyone was like, oh, that'll never be useful? This is going to be the first surge forward moment for these Phoenixes to do a ridiculous amount of damage and to go on the offensive. This is what Grubby's been waiting for this whole game. Now let me pause for a moment and go back to 13 minutes, right before this expansion starts in the bottom left. Actually, when did that expansion start? I maybe need to go back a little more. And yeah. Okay, so here's a great question. I've actually been seeing people talk about this in the chat. And this is something that people are saying in Singapore. And I suppose in Phoenix, Arizona, if they were at the EG house watching. So Grubby has been building all these Phoenixes because they're the best possible thing against Phoenixes. If for some reason Grubby decided to halt and go something else, there's this critical period where the something else hasn't kicked into gear and your opponent can rush in and kill you. So, oh, I'm going to go Stalker. I build 4 Stalkers. And then I'm going to build 4 more Stalkers. And then he rushes in with 20 Phoenixes. We have 12. All our Phoenix die. There's probably 16 Phoenixes of his still available. And then he lifts all of our Stalkers. The other 8 kill them off one at a time. And then he kills off probably 35 probes. Has happened to me all the time. I speak from the most painful of experiences. Things that will cause me to write longing, wrenching dialogues in my diary. Or perhaps even monologues in my diary. It's hard to have dialogues in a diary unless you're a crazy person. So, likewise, you might say, well, Grubby's making all these Phoenixes. He's even focusing on the anti-air. the range upgrades, the Phoenix Air upgrades. What if MC switched into something like a bunch of Blink Stalkers? We've hit critical mass with Phoenixes. Phoenixes get better and better and better the more you have, because then they can all actually be firing. As a contingency, Grubby has been making some Zealots, and as a contingency, Grubby has 4 gateways available, and you can just snap answer your opponent by rushing in with all the Phoenixes, building 1 round of Zealots, and crushing him. So this is the excellent move that Grubby has been doing in this game to help himself maintain that edge. Archons might be a problem, but it's very difficult for my opponent, just on 2 base, to suddenly have a lot of Archons and begin dealing the hurt to me. Phoenix is still being produced en masse. We see more pylons going down. Why are these pylons going down right now? Because we want them synced up with these anion pulse crystals, with the range upgrade for Phoenixes, so that way we can see if our opponent is doing anything crazy to us. With this excess mineral build up, Grubby just took yet another expansion. With the excess mineral build up, Grubby just built the Forge, and could probably even go for +2 air weapons. So yeah, now Grubby is excited to go on the move out. This is a timing in Protoss vs. Protoss when you both open Phoenix. I finish my range upgrade. I have seen signs that you are still building Phoenixes throughout this game. And this is a very strong timing in this matchup. If he is going Phoenix and is behind on his range, you will kill him. If he's going for Templar or Archons, or even trying to go for Blink Stalkers, this attack will very often kill him. Interestingly, this range upgrade 6 is not irrelevant against Stalkers. The fact that you can lift and then you can retreat with such high range on the blasts, you can actually be shooting at the Stalker and none of its buddies can shoot you if you're behind it because of that range 6. So this is a pretty significant timing. So Grubby's actually right-clicking on the buildings and realizes that MC realizes 2 things. MC, oh man, MC actually has the range upgrade. So this means that also MC is not going for any sort of air. Or excuse me, we see that he is going range upgrade, so we know that MC is not going for any sort of ground play. Whoo, that's what I wanted to say. Magnifique. Haha. So I will now state the other simple logic. Just as 7 Phoenixes versus 6 Phoenixes is really significant in the early game, that will allow our Phoenixes to decimate his just by having 1 more. And that's why we've had this like proliferation at the start, where we're both chrono boosting our Stargates and we're both building extra Stargates and upgrading our Phoenixes. But likewise, in the late game, 41 Phoenixes are not going to dominate 40 Phoenixes. So getting Stargates 3 and 4 and 5 are not really as significant as starting to branch out into things that can deal mass damage, namely Archon. I just especially love that Grubby has done this nice spread out of stuff, because, I mean, over in MC's base, MC has essentially been living the same life. Except there has been no attempt from MC to plant down all these sorts of pylons along the edge. These are amazing for spotting Phoenixes because they just can't go lift them. So here's the level 2 upgrades. This is another way of saying, okay, well, 41 Phoenixes, not that different from 40 Phoenixes, but a +1 weapon upgrade? Wow, look at that. It's going to go from, excuse me, it's going to go from 10 damage to 11 and then 12. So cool, each one of my Phoenix is being like a little less than 10% better. That's significant. That's super duper significant. So Grubby just starts incorporating a couple more of these ground upgrades. I mean, I honestly think Grubby played this perfectly. Again, excess minerals for defense. Looks like no cannon needed really there. Is this a cannon? This should be. Yeah, there it is. Excess for defense. Now, I want you to note that this is excess minerals. Burning minerals, burning minerals, burning minerals, burning minerals in useful ways. Even this Nexus was a form of burning minerals. Burning minerals. Cool. This is squeezing in some gas stuff, squeezing in some gas stuff. This upgrade at the forge is squeezing in some gas stuff. Interestingly, over on Camp MC, MC is actually doing this. Oh, let me just devote hardcore to only Phoenix. And we're going to actually get the chance to see how this pans out. So in other words, it was the heavy focus to Phoenixes towards the mid-game, and it's a gradual focus away from Phoenixes as the game goes on. So Grubby starts to add all the zealots in. This ring of pylons, I mean, look at Grubby's vision control over the center of the map. You even begin heading up into the center, not with everything, but just with some of the things. And Archons are the final little tool that Grubby's going to use. While going for, oh, this is the air weapons level 2 from MC, and the air armor level 1, which is, I actually don't know if armor or attack is necessarily better in Phoenix versus Phoenix. It's probably armor, actually, now that I think of it, but whatever. I still agree wholeheartedly with everything that I've just said. Nice. So here we have Grubby producing fewer Phoenixes, and in fact it's 34 to 39. We're not really gaining that huge of an edge out of it. But I'm happy that this happens in the game because this shows the power of incorporating just a few extra different kinds of units. 32 plus 2 Phoenixes versus 40 plus 1 Phoenixes. Templar are actually useful for feedback, so let's see if we can see those. Nope. Didn't end up happening. There was a narrow window where it could have. Now we have 29 versus 40. Pretty significant. I'm going to now leave these little things open. These sorts of ability things open. Yeah, so now we can get a sense of unit counts. And we can actually see the Archon shots doing some massive works. Only MC's Phoenixes are highlighted right now. Let's see. Here's Grubby's Phoenixes all clustered together. Here's MC's trying to do maximum work. You can see a couple of feedbacks are available here. But literally a couple shots, you can see this whole area just plummet down. And you can see very quickly that this count evens up super, super swiftly. And then this situation, this is one of these momentum situations. It's exactly like Protoss vs. Terran. Our opponent has linear buildup of forces. He can only build Phoenixes one at a time out of each Stargate. So now that he has 3 Stargates, he's building them 3 at a time. But having built up all these gateways, Grubby literally can just do the flood warping. And it's difficult to catch up against that because Grubby's warping in units 8 at a time, and the Phoenixes in this circumstance are no longer this powerhouse unit. They're just a unit. 8 units at a time versus a mere 3 at a time. And then with all these pylons over here, Grubby's able to just warp in. I thought this was one of the most beautifully executed games I had ever seen from really both sides, both of them doing these long-form, drawn-out Phoenix-type things. Yeah, kill all the things. Go, Grubby. Woohoo! Going to his base, Grubby. Yeah. Build that one Phoenix over there, Grubby. Woo! Just a nice, neat, compact, clean, simple follow-up from Grubby. Can feel very tense, but there were, I would describe, let me see if I can find all the moments that I would define as the key ones. I think there was one around, yeah, here it is. So here is, so the first key moment happened back at this 7-minute mark. This is when first contact was made among the Phoenixes. I'll even center my screen over the area. This is a significant moment. First contact is made. The other significant moment from Camp Grubby is when he comes over here and sees continued Phoenix production. This is a tremendous tell. More than 3 Phoenixes disrupts any other form of tech in this matchup. And honestly, Grubby had hardly any other interactions after that, save for that one, another very significant interaction. So I want you just to think of the timing right now. 10 minutes. And we're pretty much pinning our opponent on Phoenix play. By the 12-minute mark, there's really still been no significant new vision from either player. But Grubby's starting to poke forward. Still seeing nothing. By 13 minutes, this is pretty significant. Like, oh, look, 2 stalkers, and we can click on that and see no upgrades. This was a very significant interaction. No upgrades. Ah, my opponent is probably not going ground stuff. And this is what makes this most significant timing attack of all. The 15-minute push.
Research complete.
We lead with this observer, and this push will kill him if he's gone for any other transition.
Teleport successful.
It will kill him if he has not also matched our range upgrade. And if he is matching us in every regard, well, the game's just going to go on longer, and we got the chance to see how Grubby played that out. Yeah, super narrow topic in today's daily. Phoenix versus Phoenix and Protoss versus Protoss. And yet still lots cool to be learned. Num 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 num. That's actually the end of the daily. I have been at my computer doing casting things since 9:30, and it's now 8 p.m. So I get to go to bed. So let's go ahead and ask some questions. Yeah. Dun, 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 dun. So Fear Dragon 64 says, Day 9, if players have an excess of minerals, why not scout unit compositions with zealot harassment? There's a completely reasonable statement. Nothing wrong with that. It's just, I briefly note how much or how many zealots you can actually afford. You're building a lot of pylons because Phoenix is built freaking fast. You can burn through almost all your minerals just trying to make Phoenixes out of 2 Stargates. Because again, you're downing like about 400 gas a minute, and you're mining about 500 gas a minute. Freaking fast, man! Freaking fast! Fast! I'm not even answering the question. Let me try that again. What about using zealot harassment to get a sense of the composition? For one, you don't really need to. We saw Grubby had some pretty clear senses. But if you're trying, I would say you need to do it only maybe once to really see with zealots. Because if you do something like build 5 zealots, that's still like 3 gateways or a nexus. Do you really think it's more worth it to build 3 gateways in a long-term PvP or a nexus? Or do you really think it's better to build the 5 zealots and just be like, oh yeah, he really is going for that stuff? Also, I've heard Grubby argue that not doing that sort of zealot harassment allows you to conserve minerals in case MC did do something like, ta-da, 8-gate Blink Stalker, all in. You do have enough money to then, oh my god, warp in a round of zealots, start chrono boosting and immortal, and because you built those 3 extra gateways, you actually can do that. So let's take some Okay, so Slipper14 asked the question that I sort of answered in different segments, but I'll recap again. Day 9, if MC had switched to some sort of large amount of gateway push, could Grubby even be able to hold that? Let me give 2 situations. Let's say Grubby went Phoenix and MC didn't. If MC went straight for Robo or straight for Blink Stalkers, right as Grubby's expanding and starting to do techs up to Colossus, a huge gateway push sometimes can win. The way to hold it off as Grubby is to wall off with buildings and then sit behind with immortals and use sentry force fields effectively. In this game, where both of them are going Phoenix, there's really no gateway push that's a threat. First of all, Phoenixes get better in bigger numbers. Or let me make the following statement that I think everyone can agree with. If MC wanted to do a gateway push, he'd probably have to stop building Phoenixes. I think it's a very fair, simple statement. So if MC decides to push, we have MC stopping Phoenix production, and we have Grubby continuing Phoenix production. So this push hits when Grubby has 14 to 20 Phoenixes. And what will MC have? Fewer Phoenixes, so that means Grubby's Phoenix will just wipe those off the map very quickly. So now let's say Grubby has 12 to 14 Phoenixes at this point, and MC just has some ground units. Zealots are going to be really easy to kill, they're light, and we have tons of energy from our Phoenixes. Sentries, even easier to kill. So the only thing he could really threaten us with is going to be Stalkers. But we already have 5 Zealots back home and 4 gates, so we can warp in. We're going to have 9 Zealots and 12 to 14 Stalker, or 12 to 14 Phoenixes. Even if he has 16 Stalkers, he's going to get freaking destroyed. And then we're going to go to his base and kill him off. So that really is the reason. It's very difficult right in that middle-ish zone. Let's go ahead and take one more. This question is so funny. I'm just going to say it out loud. RB26 Det 2626 says, Day 9, when you look in the mirror, do you flex your arms and abs to practice intimidating others, or do you just go all in with Immortal Rush? Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, man. Funny Bone 666 says, Day 9, what if Grubby went for Archons faster by turtling a little more on 2 bases and building more gateways in your main? Couldn't you maybe defend a 3rd in order to have fewer Phoenix and a bigger Zealot Archon mix? Technically, yeah, you could get Archons a little faster, but Phoenixes are still great. You want to have the winning edge in Phoenix, and the way that Grubby was doing it was by throwing in just a dash of Archons to tip it back into his favor, and then Grubby had the lockdown on the Phoenixes. Phoenixes are great for lifting up other units. They're great for leading the charge for your army and backing up and assessing so you can reposition. It's great. If you did decide to go Archon earlier, Grubby could have done that, but he would have had to essentially say, I am completely giving up air control. Here, you have it. And then if MC decided to go, wow, you have Archons here. I'm going to go to your main base and just beelined there. Grubby would have a near impossible time dealing with it. And that, honestly, is another way that MC could have had a little bit of an edge there. I don't like it that much. I prefer to get Archons just a little bit later, have a little bit more patience, get a few more gateways up. But there's certainly nothing wrong with it. I will not try to answer the question, when is the earliest safe/good time to go Archons? I'll just say, feel free to build a few more Phoenixes and just build the Archons as you have the money to without ceasing your Phoenix production. Hope you enjoyed this 2-part daily. I will see you tomorrow with more StarCraft. For Saturday, I'm doing a Team Fortress 2 charity match, and after that, you should probably watch IPL 5. And then I'll be doing subscriber mana battles on Sunday. Go to day9.tv to check that out. And one thing that I wanted to note, because a lot of people have been asking, these keycaps, the Day9 TV keycaps that are at the Day9 TV store at day9.tv, this goes on a DOS keyboard or a SteelSeries, whatever G keyboard, 7G, 6G, V2, whatever you want. Goes on the Razer keyboards. If it's a mechanical, it works. Just Google your keyboard and the word mechanical, and you'll probably see it. I'm going to go, bye. Thanks for watching.